What's up, guys? Roddy here, and it's the end of the year. We're going to reflect a little bit on the year, what has happened on the channel, celebrate a huge milestone, and we're going to talk about my end of the year phone awards. So let's go. So in true fashion of the channel, I have to ask you to jump down there real quick and hit that subscribe button. If you've already subscribed, you are awesome. And thank you guys so much for making this year a huge success. We have finally hit 1,000 subscribers. That's right. That was one of my big challenges, was to make it to 1,000 this year. We crossed that line of 500, then we hit 800, and then after 800, we came all the way through, and you guys made my dream a reality, which was to finally hit 1,000 subscribers on the channel. So it's been a fantastic year. I really enjoyed doing this, and I'm so happy to see you all subscribing and really enjoying everything that we're doing here on the channel, and I hope that we get to do a lot more in the future. As we crossed a very big milestone of hitting 1,000 subscribers, I made a promise on Twitter, and I'm going to keep that. And so to celebrate that milestone, I'm going to give away a brand new Nothing Phone 2. That's right. I have decided that I'm going to spend a lot more time with Nothing devices, CMF devices here on the channel. I've been rocking the Watch Pro here, CMF Watch Pro. I've got a pair of the Buds Pro, which is my current favorite go-to pair of buds, and I've got the LAN charger that is hooked up and charging my devices when I need them to be charged. That being said, you'll see more earbuds and ear twos and ear sticks and anything that Nothing puts out. So without further ado, it's the end of the year. That means we've had a lot of devices in hand. We've had the huge successful S23 Ultra. We've had the Nothing Phone 2. We've had the Pixel 8 Pro. We've had a Pixel 7a. I have a Pixel Fold, and we also got the brand new iPhone 15 Pro Max. We also have had the Flip 5 as well as the Motorola Razr Plus. Plus, I've been able to do a few little hands-on, not enough for really a review, but to play with the Fold 5. I've been able to check out some of the other S23 phones, just hold them in the hand, use some other people's, that sort of thing. Used a lot of phones this year, played with a lot of phones, and got to review a lot of phones. So we've got to talk about what phones I think have been the best phones of the year. Now, I've reached out to my good panel of friends who have also used multiple phones. We've talked a lot. We've talked to some of the larger creators out there, plus my experience and the things that I'm going off of. So we're going to roll all this into one, and I'm going to go, boom, here are the categories and here are the phones. But something I wanted to do last year that I'm going to do this year is I wanted to make this a series, and I'm going to release videos all throughout December about what phones I feel are the best. And without further ado, I want to reveal those categories and use this as an intro video. And we're going to go ahead and knock out one of those categories real quick. So my categories for best phones of the year are as follows. We've got the best budget phone, the best small phone, the best big phone. Then we've got the best camera phone, the best battery, the best foldable, the flop of the year, and then the best phone of the year. So that's 8 categories that we're going to cover. That's 8 different episodes of this series, and then we're going to crown a winner. And today I want to talk about my pick for best budget phone. We're going to go ahead and knock that out. So without further ado, let's do this. First things first, we have to talk about design. And most budget phones typically come with a little bit cheaper of a build material. They typically aren't stainless steel or titanium. They aren't really good aluminum or they might have some plastics on them. They may not have the best cameras or the best screens. And nowadays we're starting to see cheaper phones get a lot better. And you're starting to see some of those flagship spec items, both hardware and software wise, trickle down into these budget phones. Now, what classifies as a budget phone? A lot of people say that it should be something that's just super cheap, easy to use, and there's tons of phones out there that are $200 and $300 or less that people say that's a budget phone. But I think that you have to consider a phone that is affordable, maybe not the cheapest, but it's affordable enough that a large amount of people can buy this device. Now remember, I'm in the US, so I'm only going to speak to what we can get pretty globally and internationally. And there's a lot of phones that you can't. And some people are going to say, well, I can't get that in my region, so I wouldn't count that. But it's phones that I feel like that go to Europe, go to the US, parts of Asia, they're all around there, and that's the ones I'm going to kind of focus on. So when it comes to phones that are like Chinese exclusive, while I think they've got a lot of great phones I'd love to try, and I hope those phones do eventually come here to the West, I kind of put those out of the way because they're really hard to get to. Their software is kind of more utilized for that region. And I just don't think that even while they might be really cheap with great specs, it's hard to get them. And not a lot of people can use them. And I think that takes them out of the running. So all of those Chinese exclusive phones, they're gone. Now, there are phones that are still Chinese phones, but they're not Chinese exclusive like OnePlus. So I think we have to look at things like OnePlus Nord. I think we also have to look at things like the Asus Zenfone 2 or 10, sorry. And we of course have to look at Pixel 7a, iPhone SE, those types of phones. So what is it for me when it comes to design? What am I looking for? And I think it's the phone that pushes the limits of budget. Not necessarily because it's got superior materials in it, but it's got more of that look of a flagship. It's something that when it's laid on a table, someone's using it in their hand, it doesn't look like a cheaper phone. And I think the phone that did that best this year was the Pixel 7a. That phone looked and felt like a premium product. When I was out with it, using it, holding it, I never felt like I was compromising on that build quality. Now, it's got a plastic back. It doesn't have the latest Gorilla Glass Victus front screen, that sort of thing. But you put a screen protector on there and you put a really nice case on this thing, you can't tell the difference between it in a case with a screen protector and a $2,000 phone in a case with a screen protector. It doesn't feel cheap and it doesn't perform cheaply either. What I mean by that is buttons were clicky and they're not falling out and they're not vague and they have a good texture. The aluminum feels nice and it's soft and matte finish. The camera rail really, I think, from the 6A to the 7A really brought that into a better overall design. But you had other great phones, like I think the Asus Zenfone looks fantastic. That phone just had a real nice matte finish on the back of it. Those two cameras, bold pops of color, really good screen there. It's really hard to say, well, Pixel is better because it looks better, because that phone looked great as well. Then you've got other phones out there that I think kind of missed the mark. They were a little cheaper, like the iPhone SE, but it's starting to look really dated. And I think you just kind of have to take that out. I also think that there's a few other phones that are also starting to look a little bit more dated when you throw them into the mix of cheaper, more inexpensive phones. Now, I again am talking about phones that came out in 2023, not last year's flagships that you can buy at a discounted rate or anything like that. And so I also think that you have to consider that budget. And these are phones that you can get for around $400 or $500 or less. So the Pixel fits really well in there, but you have some other devices I think that also have to be considered when you're looking at a $400 or $500 phone. This year, my good buddy Dalvon Digital, if you haven't checked him out, I'll put a link to his channel below, but he reviewed the new phone, and it's NUU. It's kind of funny, but and those were great budget devices. You know me, I've always been a fan of Motorola, and I think this year Motorola's budget devices were also really, really good. I think that OnePlus made a really conscious effort to give us devices that were really, really nice. But when you look at something like the Nord versus what Motorola is giving you with some of their Edge phones, you just kind of go, I'm getting way more for my money over here because I'm paying less and getting almost the same exact phone. But ultimately, at the end of the day, we have to pick a winner. And I think this year's winner, based off of performance, based off of camera quality, based off build quality, it just kind of checked all the boxes of just a really good solid phone that you could daily carry with very, very few caveats. And that's going to go to the Pixel 7a. I don't think there's a better software experience right now in 2023 at the end of the year going into the beginning of 2024 than the Google Pixel experience. Even though this phone did not have flagship cameras, you're still getting really good, superior camera quality when you're taking still photos. Google's processing is just amazing, and we've seen time and time again that lower level phones from Google with kind of inferior or outdated or old hardware still takes as good a picture, and people love the photos that are coming out of it as a flagship device. You combine all that together and you say, oh, well, you're still getting an old Tensor chipset. Well, yeah, you do. But on this device, I never really noticed a lag or anything. It did everything I needed to do. I even pushed it into some power usage situations, and it did it. And I think that's a credit to it. I also made it through a full day with a battery life at the end of the day, throwing it on the charge and just saying, hey, this thing works. It made it to the end of the day. While it's not a 2-day phone, it was still a pretty good 1-day phone. Sure, the screen is probably not the greatest out there, but it worked. I didn't have problems using it outside. Did I want it a little brighter? Sure, probably could have helped, but I didn't struggle to see it and say it was unusable. There was nothing about the phone that was ever unusable or so cumbersome or it's so lackluster that I just had to write that device off. So you roll all that into a really nice, beautiful, almost flagship looking body. I love the 6.1-inch screen. It was really easy to slide in and out of the pocket. The camera bump was a lot less because not as big of cameras. All that combined to say that phone was just a gem of a phone to use. And I think that if anyone is looking for anything under $1,000, you definitely have to put that in the mix. But if you're looking for something around the $500 or less range, I don't think anyone's doing a budget device as good as the Pixel. They may do it cheaper. They may have a little bit neater, more techie focused design or something different. But when it comes to having something that looks premium, that gives you a lot of premium and flagship quality specs for such a budget of a phone, you gotta go Pixel 7a. And wireless charging was great for me because I wireless charge everything. So that's going to do it for me on this episode. Make sure you stick around next time when we talk about best small phone, because the Pixel 7a also fits into that, but it's got a lot more competition in that space because it's not necessarily as much about budget now. We can splurge a little more for a small phone. So make sure you guys hit that subscribe button. We're going to keep rolling with this. Hopefully the next milestone will be 5,000 subscribers. That'll be when we do the next giveaway. I'm not going to do in increments of 1,000 because 1,000's a big one, and now I want to really push and get to 5,000 and then 10,000 and then 20,000, 30,000, 50,000, 100,000 and all the way to 1 million. That would be amazing. So let's get there. Let's work on it together. Make sure you stick around for the next episode when we talk about best small phone of 2023. And we will see you next time.